Hello you, welcome to Geekism and welcome back to Tiny Glade, where we continue working on our magey, wizardy, witchy city with the dark wizards area of the city. I need to name the place, and I'm going to be calling on you folks, please, in the comments. I need a name for this city. It needs to be something whimsical, something magical. And yeah, I'm fed up of calling it the wizardy, witchy, magey, city-y thing. But yeah, so thank you for all the nice comments in the last episode where we worked on the Mage Quarter, which I feel is the sort of the university area, the more sort of proper area of the city, the well-rounded, scholarly wizards hangout over there. And it turned out really good. I'm very happy with it, and I appreciate all the feedback. This is where the ne'er-do-wells go. This is where there are some dodgy deals going on, and some unicorn horns being sold when they shouldn't be, and all that sort of thing. So it's a little bit more higgledy-piggledy. It's a little bit more rustic. It's a little bit more open. We don't actually use paved ground here. We actually are going to use the path texture for this little bit. So, one, just to kind of change it up a little bit, but also I feel like it would be a little darker and a little dingier, and also we get a little bit of grass grow up through the cracks in the edges of the ground and the walls, and that works out quite nicely as well. And mostly, yeah, just trying to bring in different texture throughout the build, really, because the idea with building a full city like this, I think, is you really need to sort of have some variation in your districts and have some changes in how the place looks and feels, because otherwise it's just very samey. I mean, arguably that Mage Quarter might be a little big, really, maybe taking up a bit too much of the map and starting to get a little bit samey. So I really wanted to try and get a different feel over here, which I think we've accomplished quite well. And obviously you are a little bit limited in the game because of the palette that it provides you. At the end of the day, you can place down stone buildings, wood buildings, they're circle or they're square, and that's about it, really. So you have to be a little bit creative, which isn't a negative of the game by any means. I'm just sort of pointing out the issues you're going to have when trying to develop a larger palette of texture and stuff in something like this. Excuse me. So yeah, it is fun to try and just get a little bit more out of the build. And here, the way we're doing that is using a little bit more wood, using a little bit more timber frame with brick wall, which is an option as well, which is something we haven't really used up until now. And then obviously color-wise as well, we're trying to go for some more darker tones and more natural tones. I do find that a little tricky. For those of you who don't know, if you're new to the channel or just haven't been paying attention, I'm very colorblind. I have tritanopia, yeah, real severe color deficiency, which in day-to-day life doesn't really affect me at all, but when it comes to games like this, it can do, especially in games like this. And it's a problem I had with The Sims 4 as well, where the palette is very pastelized. It's very sort of subtle, and there's no a way of either entering something like a hex code or even just having the color palettes be named. Either of those things really help me, because whilst I can't really see color, I know that purple is blue and red, and those three colors can usually go well together, and I have a rough sort of knowledge of the color wheel and what have you. So sometimes help a lot if I can either import a hex code, because then I can go and find some nice color schemes on the internet and just sort of copy them without really knowing what they look like, or I can just sort of see the names of the colors as well. And this game currently neither has none. If the devs are watching, that would be a suggestion. Is just sort of having a tooltip, on a mouse hover, just let me know what color the wall pieces are. I've tried to use the ones that look to me to be sort of darker, earthier tones, and then also some like the deep purples and things like that. And I think it worked out quite nicely, along with lots of darker brick tones, again using what I think is like the grey and the blue bricks rather than the cream and white bricks that we used in the Mage Quarter in the last episode. So just kind of keeping a variation of that, using a good mix of all of the windows here as well. There's no exact rhyme or reason to the windows I use in these kind of builds. I do find that lower down those arrow slits work quite well, even though they wouldn't be very useful as arrow slits. They just kind of work as like dungeony kind of windows. And then I do find that the the church style windows. I'm not really up on my window terminology. I'm sorry. The pointy windows look really good on the stone textures, and then the square windows look really good on the wooden textures. Obviously, that doesn't always go. Like a variation is really healthy. It's good to move them around and mix them around, but for the most part, that's what I find myself coming back to a lot. Here you'll see I'm using what I think is a deeper color, sort of like that looks to me like a rose, like a deep red, like a red or something. I don't know. I shouldn't talk about color because I'm never right. But this was very fun to build. You'll notice there was a little bit in the middle there that wasn't on camera. Basically put that first building down and then it cut away to another building, and then there's about 3 or 4 appeared in between that weren't on the time lapse. I'm going to be completely honest with you. Sometimes I'm just not in the mood to press record. And again, for those of you who are perhaps new from Tiny Glade, or perhaps new from Planet Coaster 2, or just new because you found the channel in general recently, the numbers have been going up, which is awesome to see. You're all very, very welcome here. But for those of you who don't know the history of the channel, I've been working on Geesim for about 8 years now. 2 of those... it was my full-time job. So for a little while I was a full-time YouTuber, and it was really kind of incredible and kind of amazing in many ways, but in other ways it was also very, I don't know whether difficult is the right word. There are much more tougher jobs out there, but it definitely lost something when it became the full-time career. And mostly because when you are relying on it for things like ad revenue, your priorities shift massively as to what's important on the channel, and it very quickly becomes less about making things that are fun, making things that are interesting, and more about making things that will definitely do well, or at least can be made quickly so that you can move on to the next thing that will definitely do well. So whilst I don't really resent my time as a full-time YouTuber, the reason why I moved away from it being a full-time is actually mostly from external forces. I got divorced and needed a regular paycheck, and because of that went and found work at a hobby and game store, which I'm manager at now. And that's going great, and I very much enjoy that, and enjoy working on this alongside it as a nice little sort of side project, a nice little side hustle. It's still, I won't lie, it makes revenue. YouTube does earn me money, and that's great, but it's not necessarily the sort of money I have to rely on every single month to pay all the bills, which is, which was difficult for me personally with YouTube being full time. The reason I tell you about all of that is just because, yes, half of this build today, I just didn't record it because I just wasn't in the mood to know that the camera was pointing at me, and that sometimes is going to happen. And, that's how I stay healthy with this and how I keep making stuff with this. So I just wanted to sort of point it out. And really, this is a sort of appeal to anybody else out there who's making this sort of stuff and looking at doing it full time. It can be done. It can be very successful. It can definitely make money, but just be prepared for that shift to when it becomes the only thing that you have to do to put food on the table. It's very different from the I'm going to work on this on a few evenings a week because it's only me a few $100 and it's going to help buy fun stuff for the kid or a little breakaway or whatever. There was a real huge sort of mental shift there that perhaps I just wasn't prepared for, and if it happened again, I would go into it very differently. There's always a possibility of it happening again. Who knows what work looks like and in years or what have you. Retail that I'm in now is a very sort of violent, volatile, sorry is the word. It's not violence. We have nobody trying to hit us, thank goodness. It's a very volatile industry. So, who knows what the future looks like. And for the most part, there was a lot of great stuff about being a full-time YouTuber. The freedom it gave you in how you spend your days was fantastic. It meant I had a lot more time at home with my son. This was all due through COVID as well, so he was not in school for a lot of it. But he's getting bigger now. He's 7. He's asking me about making videos. He's very much enjoys Minecraft and Roblox and all those sort of things that you would expect a 7-year-old to love. And I did say that maybe we could do a Minecraft video on the channel with him one time. He could show me around our Minecraft world that we play together. So that's good. It's fun that he's getting into all this stuff as well. I'm very happy that he's also a very active kid as well. I never was. I was an absolute nerd. Like, I only played video games pretty much growing up. Luckily, he has inherited that from me, but also has a very active streak from his mother, which I'm very happy about. So he's a big fan of karate. He goes there. He's just got his green belt, and and now we're getting into the winter season here in Canada. For those of you who don't know, I live in Canada. And so he's just started ice skating again, which he enjoys, but isn't particularly very good at it. But that's fine, as long as he enjoys it. That's the main thing. And then in a few weeks, maybe a month or two, here I'm just going down at ground level, making sure this all works. Oh, totally forgot to mention that, by the way. This is really difficult to build stuff so close together to create this alleyway. It was... I don't know if you've noticed, but my goodness, the camera is all over the place. My fault for trying to do it, I guess, but I think it turned out quite well. But yeah, in a few weeks he starts skiing, which he's very good at. He's an absolute natural at bombing it down a mountain. So yeah, so he enjoys these kind of games. He keeps asking me to play the roller coaster game. So we're going to, when I get him this week, we're going to try him on Planet Coaster and see how he gets on. It's tricky though. It's fiddly. Perhaps more fiddly than this. We're coming to the end of the build now then, just tweaking everything, just where the walls clip a little bit in a fashion that I don't enjoy. I'm a big fan of everything clipping together and looking all sort of mashed together, but there is a few times where it doesn't quite go how you want it to, usually when a roof hits a wall in an odd way. And then we kind of cap off this alleyway area with a couple of builds here. These end buildings on this side and on the other side aren't really finished because I need to know what they're leading into, really, to decide how they go. But I did want to cap this area off with a sort of implied alleyway, really, this archway here to say you are entering an area that is perhaps a little unsafe, that is perhaps a little bit full of, untoward wizards and what have you. So, yeah, thank you to everyone who pointed out that this area in the Harry Potter world is called Nocturne Alley. There was one I couldn't just come up with the name of that one. So, this isn't based on that at all. The video certainly won't be called Nocturne Alley or whatever, but I did go and look at reference images of it, and just the idea that everything just sort of really leaned over itself to almost create a tunnel through just the building, sort of reaching a peak at the top is sort of what I've tried to take away from that. And also I never realized that Diagon Alley and Nocturne Alley were plays on diagonally and nocturnally. That blew my mind. Like I said, not really a huge Harry Potter fan. So yeah, it was never really on my radar, but that was something that just passed me by. More windows than you can manage, and chimneys as well, very much to finish off the build. There's chimneys everywhere in this place. It looks kind of crazy when it's sped up a little bit, all those little snakes on the top of roofs, but once we go into some real-time clips, which we'll look at in a second, I think they look really, really great. I'm really happy with how this build turned out. We have one more area, and honestly, I'm lost at what to do with it. It's that large area there, and I want a large feature building to go there. Some sort of church / temple / hall, great hall, something like that. That's what it needs. It needs a real prominent building that all of these roads are leading up to. Yes, the Mage Quarter is one large building, but I feel that's more of a sort of lots of buildings put together to create that Mage Quarter. I need something that was built from scratch in a big standard here. So looking for suggestions, please, either just ideas or maybe even points of reference that I can look at. I'd be very grateful. But thank you so much for watching. I really hope you've enjoyed it. Until the next one, be good.